What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the third season of the podcast.
That's right. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to see you guys. Well, can't see you, but we know you're watching.
Yes.
We have with us a special guest today with us.
Yes.
Pastor Rubi Pimentel. Thank you for being here.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate
How are you,
it.
man?
Good. I'm wonderful. Good weather in Houston, Texas. Finally.
Yes.
You got good weather. Yes.
And you come from the north. I mean, you were pastoring up there in the north, so you can appreciate the cold weather in Houston.
Yes, it is looking more like heaven here. yeah. I was concerned in the summer, but we back to heaven. Feeling,
yes.
Yeah.
Pastor Pimentel is actually our youth pastor at West Houston Church. For those of you that are not familiar, he is our youth pastor at West Houston Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we're just so glad that you're taking the time to be here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here and just enjoy this wonderful moment of chatting.
Absolutely. And for our audience that are watching on Facebook and on YouTube, we're not able to see you or read you if you don't comment. So make sure you send us a comment, say hello, so we know that you're here. We know that you're watching. We'd love to say hello to you and find out who is with us tonight.
That's right. I mean, who has followed along this? We're literally in season 3. That's awesome. I'm really glad to start this new month. It's November 1st. So welcome, join, connect, share. We're excited to dive into, we're going to be talking about relationship shifts. And today we're going to focus on
divorce. That's an interesting topic.
That is a very, very interesting topic.
Yes, and we've prayed about this conversation here tonight, so I'm sure that the Lord is going to guide us.
That's right.
Carla de los Santos has joined the live. Hello, Carla, and welcome to the live. Pastor Diego Boker is here as well. And David Otieno. David, thank you for your amazing work that you do, my friend. Monet Morgan. Who is Monet Morgan? We're going to talk about Monet Morgan here soon. Monet,
Stay
glad
tuned.
that you've joined here tonight. Welcome. And Michelle Thomas. Michelle, God bless you. So glad that you guys are here with us tonight. So, the topic of divorce, it's an interesting one. We're going to develop it here in the next 45 minutes. But before we get into that, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Rubi Pimentel, or the full name, Rubi Emmanuel Pimentel Marte. It's a very Hispanic long name. It is what it is. I was born in the Dominican Republic, came when I was, I want to say 7, to New York City. That's where I grew up in the South Bronx, very rough neighborhood. I am the son of a worker. My mom worked for the education department for 40 years in the Dominican Republic.
Wow.
Son of a mechanic, which I never understood because I've never seen my dad working on a car once he retired.
Is that so?
He retired. He was in his 30s. He retired because he had some issue in his blood due to the job he was doing. And then, we came here, grew up almost all my life in Adventist system, except for like a year and a half when we came. Didn't know English, so it was kind of hard to put us. Adventist education didn't have a setting for people that didn't speak English. So we had to do public school for about, I want to say a year. I don't think I did the whole year and a half, but it was like around a year. And then, but pretty much all my life Adventist education, and I've been in ministry close to 18 years, and I've done everything in the church, from Bible worker to Bible teacher to biology teacher. Don't even ask me.
Oh.
But,
Biology teacher.
Now that's a new one because pastors stay away from that science.
Yeah, well, I did biology.
Props to you, Pastor.
And agriculture.
That's amazing.
Not because I study it.
Right.
It's because there was a need and nobody else.
But you made it through and you're here. That's what counts.
I did biology and agriculture. From associate, youth pastor, senior, being in publishing. I've done a little bit of everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
You are a todólogo.
That's what we used to have a professor who says, you are studying to be todología.
Todología.
Yeah, that's what you're studying. Yeah.
Which for our English speakers would translate to? Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. Yeah,
Master
to make
of
it
none.
plain. Yeah, yeah.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah, that's the meaning. Yeah.
All right. So you were born in the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
Yes.
And I've been fortunate to be in many places, which is good and not good. Because
Okay.
when you move too much, so in 18 years, I think I moved so far 14 times.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So I move a lot. I have two daughters, 15 and 13, which they are a handful.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, they live in Puerto Rico, and I got to. I'm in those teen years, trying to figure out how to have a relationship through the phone. Teenagers, they are very limited on words. So I think they were able to made it. You remember back in the 90s and early 2000s, the phone was by minutes.
Right.
And I think they would have survived that era because it was by minutes, and they're so limited in words
That's a good
that
one.
they could have.
I was cool. Good.
That's
Yeah.
How's
funny.
everything? Fine.
Yeah, very good. Yes. Very limited. So that's what's back in the days. But they're wonderful girls. I am glad that they are not, compared to what I've seen, they're not disrespectful. So they're not perfect, but the one thing makes me happy, they're not disrespectful. They
Okay.
might not agree, but they stay quiet and So
They might be watching. You wanna
I want
shout
to say,
out?
well, you never know. Yes, well, that's true. I never know. They might be watching. To Liani, my oldest, and JLE, we just call her JJ. That's the youngest. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
All right, and of course, married.
Yes, I am married to a wonderful woman, independent, that will always give me her opinion. Monet Morgan.
And she's watching, brothers. You gotta be careful what you say here tonight.
I said something very good. She's a very independent, smart
We
woman.
love Monet.
Yes. That's my beautiful wife. We've been married. We just turned 2 years that we're married.
All right, congratulations.
October 10.
Congratulations.
Yes. We got married 2 years, and she is a Houstonian. That's how you say it.
Yeah.
Houstonian,
Yeah.
kind of.
You can say Astros.
Yeah. She all her life except for 1 year when we got married. She moved to Carolina for a year, and then
Okay.
after a year, we received the invitation to come here, and so yeah, she's been all her life in Texas. She loves Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loves Texas. I enjoy Texas.
You enjoy?
I enjoy Texas. Yeah.
You're from here, from
Yes,
Texas.
Houston, Texas, born and raised.
Yeah, you've always liked Houston. I think Austin. I've enjoyed Austin.
Austin is
most.
really nice. Austin is
Yeah.
definitely by far my favorite place in Texas.
But you can't. You've lived here in Houston. You got to try out the other cities from.
I
eventually.
got to visit Austin. I've never been to Austin.
Oh yes, definitely.
Monet, you
worth
got to
the-
take him to Austin, girl.
Worth the travel. Do
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful place.
So, jumping now into our topic, we know that you have been divorced.
Yes.
You have had 4 wives, and the one that you. No, I'm just
Yes.
No, you have been divorced.
Yes.
Tell us about the journey and a little bit of your testimony from that perspective.
So I married when I was 25. I can't say I was young, but I was very naive.
Okay.
You marry based on love. It's always good to marry because of love. But I married, and I met this girl in the university what I was studying, it's one of those things that you never plan for. I don't think nobody marries with the idea of being divorced. I come from a very traditional home, a very conservative home, and I'm a big believer that God does not approve divorce.
Okay.
That's something that I wholeheartedly agree with, and there's no Bible verse that supports divorce, no matter the condition. And I know we always mention that verse about infidelity, but you got to read the whole chapter to understand why he says that. But anyways, I went through divorce when I was 32. I want to say 31, somewhere around there. And man, divorce is it's like a tornado. It rips you apart. I don't think people are really prepared for divorce. Even the people that actually starts the procedures of divorce, they think they're gonna be okay, but in reality, it's not. And I've never done this, but one day, if I'm able to do a quiz or a survey, and I ask people that have been through divorce, or even the person, the party that started the divorce, if they will still make that decision, if they look back, I could guarantee you that I want to say more than 70% will say that no, it was the wrong decision. Based on the experience and people that I've talked to and my own personal experience, people do regret it because divorce, it's easy to recover from a tornado because it's only physical, material things that you have to pick up. But from a divorce, man, that's a tornado, emotional tornado that it's very difficult to recover from. It's and even after you recover, you will always have that effect there, especially when there's children involved. That will always be there. It's a scar that you learn how to live with it, but nobody can ever say, I overcome divorce. You just don't learn how to live with it. That's it. You know, you come to, because even after it's like 20 years after or 30 years, you know, we have things that remind us of that moment. And as much as you try to avoid it, your mind gets there. Because after divorce, you live a life of struggle. Trying to struggle, whether it is you learn how to forgive, but constantly you're stuck into this thing when something happens. It triggers you. That as much as you say, oh, I've forgiven and everything is okay, no. You will always have that moment. It might not happen as often as in the beginning, but you will always have that there in the back of your mind. And again, like I said, especially when there's kids involved, because that's usually that's the hardest thing to recover from when there's children involved. You know. Okay. So yeah, I went through that divorce. I was in the highest moment. I was serving as the publishing director for the Southwestern Union. I was the publishing director here, Southwestern Union. I had gone through divorce never occurs at the last minute. There's things that leads to that. So I already started to have issues, not knowing what was going on in my relationship. There were a lot of things that were changing in the relationship that I had no idea how. I couldn't explain it. And then when you're in that situation, it's like when you're drowning. You try. It's like quicksand. The more you move, the more you sink. But you try to find answers, and you try to find solutions, and you go to counseling. You try to change things. You even offer things to try to do everything to save what it seems to be a boat sinking. I even offered to give up ministry just so I could save my family.
Really?
Yeah. I promised that. I've always said in my mind, I come from a working family. I've always worked since I was 10. I grew up in a household where you needed to work. My mom stopped ironing my clothes since I was probably 10 or 11. You want to wear something, you have to iron your own clothes. They raised us very independent to be someone. In our household, we had assignments where this is a week where you got to clean the bathroom, you got to do this. My mom put me in construction when I was 12. To work construction.
Oh, wow.
And I had to help my parents, especially my dad, because when we came, I was 7. We had this Pathfinder director who helped my dad get a job as a janitor at a public school. And when we came out of school, we had to go to the school to help either my dad or the guy who helped my dad get the job to clean toilets, classrooms. So I've been in school, I've always said, all my life, because after school, we just had to clean. So I come from my mindset is always work. So I didn't have a problem. I saw it as easy. If I could save my marriage, I'll give up ministry, and I'll just go work McDonald's or work at any other place that I could provide for my family. But I wanna make sure my family stay intact. So the divorce is every time I see people going through divorce, I'm sad for them because there's always two sides in every story. I feel sad for the one that is feeling that is losing everything. And I'm sad for the person who's making the decision to divorce, thinking that on the other side, the pastures are greener, when it's not. It's not.
You said something, Pastor, interesting. Want to kind of go back a little bit to what you said. Do you think there is a high percentage in when we talk about divorce? It doesn't. You always hear this saying where it's not something that happens overnight. And you mentioned that, you know, in your experience, you felt things changing maybe in your marriage. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? When people say it's not something that happens overnight, but how can one that is married, I guess, identify those signs to avoid to getting to that point?
Yeah. So, you know, when I saw signs was, obviously at that moment, I already saw them. It's more after you go through that process, you know, you enter in the moment where you start reflecting more, you know, a lot of things start making more sense. But I will say that the signs of marriage not being okay is, number one, you start getting into petty arguments. Petty arguments is when you feel that you're right. And, you know, obviously, I must say this. There's a lot of situations and a lot of reasons why people get into divorce, other than just arguing. We obviously know, you know, we will never promote physical abuse in a relationship. That's not the goal that we try to project or present here. But things that you start seeing is usually you always think that you're giving more than the other person. I would say that's a big sign where things are in trouble. When you feel that you're giving more in the marriage than what the other person is putting. Because you start feeling that you are the superhero on the story and the other person is the bad one. And in every relationship, you both are right and you both are wrong. But if you can only see that you're doing everything good and it's the other person doing everything bad, that's a sign of your marriage about to end, because that's where Satan is making you believe that you are this great person.
Wow.
And the other person, look at this person, doesn't dedicate time with the kids, doesn't treat me right, doesn't provide me flowers or roses, doesn't give me a word of encouragement, it's not loving, it's not caring. Or even if it is on the other side, well, this person is not being intimate with me a lot. So all those things, when you start seeing the other person as the bad one and you as a superhero, that's a big sign that there's trouble. Because that's Satan making you believe like, oh, look at that. He came home and he didn't even give you a kiss. Can you believe that? You know how many other men wish they could have a woman like you, and blah, 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 or vice versa. And that's where our minds, it's that opening that Eve gave to Satan at the tree. Well, God said she started having a communication, and Adam too. Doesn't make that Adam was better than Eve, but when we start letting Satan, that's when it's trouble, and that's what I've noticed, because most of you know, I was going through a divorce and I was counseling 5 people going through family issues when I was going through that, and I was sitting there hearing their story, and I'm sitting there, I didn't know what to say. And they were like, wow, Pastor, you're so great. You were able to listen, but I was drowning in pain.
Wow.
But I couldn't say a word, you know. So, you know, those signs are very interesting. Another sign is when you have friends that start hearing you and telling you everything. Any friend that you tell them all your troubles and gives you 100% support, that's a sign of trouble. Because that means that they are just giving you advice, feeling petty for you, but not necessarily seeing. Any true friend will listen to you, but also question you. Are you sure that that's the way you see in it? Are you sure? Because, you know, it's like any married couple that we often go with emotions.
Right.
Well, he never does this. Is it never or sometimes?
Correct. Words are everything.
Words are everything. So when you have a friend that doesn't question your words, it's not truly a friend, because a friend is trying to make sure that you are basing a decision not on a feeling thing. You see, most of the divorce, not all, but most of them are based on a feeling. This is how I feel. But in reality, it's not true. It's Satan that has had an opportunity to make you believe that that feeling you have is the correct one. And with that feeling, we got to remember that Satan took 1/3 of angels.
Wow.
It was by feeling. Well, they feel unjust because he starts saying, how am I the fourth in command, and I'm not even involved in more things? Some of the angels start saying, that's kind of true, I mean, he's a very important guy. He's leading the choir here, He could sing like 7 voices at once. And then they left. But if you read the story of redemption, after they left, they kind of start noticing, like, hold on, I don't think it is the way it's supposed to be. But when they wanted to come back, even Lucifer was like, oh, no, you got too far. It's impossible. And, they ended up staying. And so those signs of when you let your emotions make determine. Because we have to remember, we always think about how we feel, but we never think about how other people feel. Now, I do want to say, a lot of people will always say, well, you're always thinking about somebody else. It's good that you think about you. Yes, it's always good that you think about you when you're not hurting someone else. Because we often forget the people that suffer the most in divorce is not the adults, it's children. Oh, wow. We never think about the children. How many kids are messed up mentally? And I can tell you that because I see my daughters go through that. I think the first year I saw my daughter, my oldest, getting a lot of anxiety attacks. Like I could be just driving, she would start screaming, "Daddy, take me to the hospital!" Like something was after her. She started crying and me in desperation, and then you got all this emotion because you see your child suffering, and then you start thinking about this other person. Look what you're doing, and there's like emotion of hurt, pain, concern for your child, and then hatred to this person. Because listen, that's why I said it's like a Category 5 tornado, man. When you're going through divorce, that's an up and down emotion. Oh, man, yeah. Listen, it's tough. And, another of the signs that we got to notice when there's trouble is also the one where, are we talking more with friends about our problems, or are we talking with our partner and with God about our problems?
Wow, that's good.
That's another sign when there's trouble. When I have to rely more on my friends, and I notice this, in many cases I've given advice or counsel or heard people going through divorce, it's the following. Most of the time, we set ourselves up for, we like to have a backup. The person that talks the most about somebody is trying to make sure that when they make the decision of divorce, the other person feels like, oh, pobrecito. Oh, my goodness. Oh, they've gone through so much. Because they try to set things up to make sure that people, it's like in church. When you start pointing at somebody's sin, it's people that don't want others to see their own sins. So they want to make the shift be on one person. So that's usually the case. I'm not saying this always. That's usually the case. And those are signs that there's trouble in your marriage. When you start relying more on your friends instead of talking to the person, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Maybe I'm not seeing it this way. How about if we pray more? Let's pray together. Let's find the solution. But when I'm relying more on person, let me tell you, this is something I found bad. And again, I have to be fair to our audience. I have not done a survey. I can only tell you from experience and the people that I've talked, and I've talked more than, there's millions of divorces in the world. But with the people, and I could tell you at least hundreds of people that have gone through divorce, and I asked them about the story, because something I've learned with humanity, we are living documents. So we all have a story. And sometimes it's good to sit down and listen to the story of people. And when I've listened to people in divorce and the story, it's a common theme, at least with that small amount of people that I know, is this theme that we have is the following. We always seek advice with the wrong people. Any friend of yours.
Say that again, Pastor.
We always seek advice on the wrong people. On the wrong people. There's two things I always advise somebody who's contemplating divorce and somebody who is going through divorce. The person who's going through divorce, I always tell them this: never consult with somebody that has not gone through divorce. Because it's not that they cannot give you a good advice, but their advice is going to be tainted by the connection he has with you,
Right.
the feelings that they had towards that person, that they feel that this person is making you suffer, because that's all you told that person, that this person is giving you pain. So that advice is tainted. And the reason why I always ask somebody for divorce is because they know the pain, and they will always give you what they should have done that they never did going through divorce. They will give you the facts.
The lessons learned.
Yes, I don't think you're seeing it this way. I think you're missing this point, because they themselves, man, was like, man, I should have not done this, or maybe I should have reacted differently on this. So they will be, and most of the times those that have gone through divorce, we always remain quiet because they can remember the pain. Like I mentioned from the beginning, you learn how to live with the pain, but you will never whoever tells you that they fully recover from a divorce, I don't want to say they're lying, but I mean,
But they're lying.
kudos for them. Kudos for them. Now, what you want to make sure is that you don't carry that baggage. And that's what I did when I went to remarry again. Make sure I didn't carry that baggage. But the pain was there.
It's like a wound, you can heal physically, even emotionally, but it's going to be the scars there.
Yeah.
And it reminds us, right?
I'll give you an example that just happened last week. I talked to my wife about this. I was talking to the mother of my children. And we have I always like to say a good relationship, right? And I decided I'm going to let everything go. But I'm going to give you something happened last week. She calls me, right? We're talking about the girls, about situation. And she comes up with this. She says, and I don't know, I might get in trouble by saying this, especially live. And I can hear Monet saying, you should not have said that. But I always like to be in trouble.
Just type in Monet.
One of the reasons that the mother of my children gave was that we did too much moving. That all that moving affected her, and that's why she did a decision that she had felt that she needed to do. And we were married 8 years. We moved, I want to say, 4 times in 8 years. So that was one of her complaints, one of her reasons that she presented of why she did what she did. So we're talking, right? And she said, oh, by the way, I'm going to let you know that we are moving. The girls and I were moving. The first thing that came to my mind was one of that reason that she gave was and it got me upset because she's moved 6 times in 7.5 years. So we moved 4 times in 8 years. She's moved 6.5. So my mind was like, hold on. I thought I was inconsistent because that's one of the reasons. Inconsistency. Sometimes we don't realize when we go into divorce and we are making divorce. Obviously, I must repeat this again. If somebody's abusing you physically, you shouldn't stay in that relationship. You shouldn't at all. But if we are basing divorce on how I'm feeling, we got to be careful because we usually say about others, not realizing that we are that same person that we're talking about the other one. But it's easier to look at somebody else and say, no, you're not doing that. When I'm not realizing, well, maybe I'm not doing it either. You see? So that's the first thing that came to my mind. I even told my wife, I said, this woman of God, this woman saved by the Lord.
But Pastor, that's interesting too, because I've always known that one should also not make decisions based on their emotions. And what that entails is, we can have differences, we can have disagreements, but like you mentioned, it's important to, I think there are so many factors that play in, right? And like I mentioned, things don't happen overnight. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people act based off of emotion. And I think that we just took a step back, give ourselves time, really think about what we're feeling, give ourselves a little break, a little day off, right? But I think that in today's society, people want solutions, want things fast, and they react. And I think when they're impulsive, and I think a lot of things lead towards the negative result because they react based on emotion versus let me take a day off, let me have a mental day off, and let me really think back what am I doing, where am I going, and having those sincere conversations when one is not emotionally just invested, rather there's negative feelings or positive feelings, and I think it's very important that as individuals, people who are listening, couples out there who are still married or gone through divorce, I think one of the things is that a lot of times we react based off emotion. And I think that if we just took a step back and really analyze, because we can pinpoint little things, but really there's deeper things. And I think and usually it's not with blaming the spouse, it's not blaming the kids, it's a lot with yourself. And you talked about baggage. Sometimes we bring baggage into our own marriage. And I think that a lot of times if we take a step back and analyze ourselves, and a very common thing I hear, especially young people today when they're getting married, I can't wait for them to make me happy. It's like, homie, if you're not happy before meeting this person, like it's not going to work. You got to be your own person. You got to have your own happiness very solid. And when you go into marriage, you're not expecting the other person to make you happy. You're just going to contribute to their happiness.
Yes. And you know, one of the things I also realize in divorce and a lot of people making comments, it's about we become terrorists. Mm-hmm. We become terrorists. And what I mean by we become terrorists, we demand from somebody to do something for us to stay in a relationship.
True.
And when we don't get what we got, we become terrorists because we explode what God had united. And we kill it.
I can hear couples saying, "You're a terrorist."
That's not what we're saying. Don't say that to each other.
Yeah. But it's true. We become
right.
We become like the church member that always wants to hold the church hostage. It needs to be this way, or
right.
if not. And then everybody, because they don't want him to leave, like, no, let's do it. And that's the danger. Because the question is, let's say the person does what you ask. Mm-hmm. Are they doing it because they love you, or because they just want to hold on to something? At the end of the day, the person's going to get tired at some point. And I think, you know, I can tell you this about my parents. My parents, if I look at my parents, I could, and I put it in today's society, mm-hmm. my parents shouldn't be divorced long ago. It shouldn't be. Like, I could guarantee you there would have been divorce. I've never seen my dad give my mom a flower in all my life. My dad doesn't even know when his birthday is. It's always a surprise every year for him. Every year, it's easy to surprise him because he has no idea. My dad is this country person, not educated, doesn't know much. All he knows is how to work. But he doesn't know. I've never seen my dad say happy birthday, happy anniversary, never taken my mom for dinner, nothing. And I've talked to my mom. My mom has said, listen, it's painful. But my mom said, Ruby, when I look at the other things.
Preach.
You know, my mom, you go to my house, the walls of my parents' house used to be, the cinder block were like 8 inches. Now it's like 3 of how many times he washes that wall. Like he washes that thing. He washes, it's clean, you know, he has the house ready. I told my mom, I don't know, last time you did something at the house, probably like 40 years ago.
Wow.
Because my dad does everything. And he provides, he gives. My dad, never professional, made more than my mom. My dad doesn't even know how much he makes in retirement. My mom is the one who handles everything. He's cool with it. I remember.
You know what you call that? Trust.
Pastor Sergio, should we talk about relationship, about finances in the home instead of divorce? But it's true. But the reason why I say I admire my parents is because not everything. I've seen my parents argue, and my dad is very stubborn. But it's about making a decision. If this is what God gave me, because when my dad married my mom, my dad was not a teen. You know, my dad has like 13 years over my mom or something like that. I suspect it's more, but that's what they say. It's around 12, but I think the 12 or 13. Because my dad is like 82. My mom is about to be 70, or 83. And we're not quite sure. My dad is kind of shady with his years. But if I see their relationship, I can definitely say that my mom has had plenty of reasons why to leave my dad. If I'm talking humanly speaking, you know, worldly speaking.
Right.
Thousands of reasons.
Yeah.
But it's about the decision of what God gave me. Because we often forget that a lot of times, God not always unite everyone. He doesn't. Just because you married somebody got you, not you.
Yeah.
A lot of times you went against God's advice.
Yeah.
And some people say, well, see, I have a reason to leave him because God, no. Once you make that mistake, God says you got to carry with that, buddy. That's your cross. We're going to help you to overcome, because
You're
that's
stuck with me, Carol.
there you go.
You're carrying my
stuck.
cross.
So there you go. So, but when my mom sees, because I've had plenty of conversations with my mom about this, my mom always says, I look at the whole picture. Is this something God gave me? If he did give me this man, then God knew he was not perfect, just like I'm not perfect. And that's the key there. We often forget we're not perfect. And we got to stop minimizing our imperfections. Because we say, this is, I don't know if you heard people say, well, I know I'm not perfect, but.
The justification. Dun, 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 dun.
That's where we become minimized. Mm-hmm. Well, I know I'm not a perfect husband or a perfect wife, but the problem is, and then we throw the whole baggage on the other person.
Man, you've really brought up
so many good
different
points.
perspective of divorce. And I must say, I think that at times, I've even, told people like, dude, you look miserable. And we're like, yeah, thinking about getting divorced. It's like, well, if you're miserable, then, does God really want you to be miserable all your life? But what you have brought up tonight is actually, I'm actually questioning whether, that's actually a good advice, because, if we are just considering our feelings and our emotions, and the big question is that enough reason to do so?
Yeah.
And reasons, I think, that in marriage will always be there. So let me ask you this: is there anything that validates? Is there anything that you would say to a person, you know what, being a divorced pastor, person, is there anything that you would tell someone, yeah, you should get divorced?
I've asked this, and I experienced it even with my own family members. I'm very hesitant to say to a person, yes, get a divorce, because, and again, I'm biased when it comes to that because of what I went through and the effects on my daughters, and I'm always very careful. I will always say to somebody, if somebody is abusing you physically, you shouldn't be in that relationship. I just today I found out about somebody tragically died because there was some abuse, there was some advice to leave the house, and unfortunately they didn't make that decision. You should never be in a place where it's not a safe environment for you. I will always say that. It's not a safe environment. And I'm not God to determine if you divorce, if God allows it. I'm just saying what the Bible says.
Okay.
That there's no reason. And even when there's infidelity, God is very clear. I only allowed Moses to give you that reason because you were so hard-headed. You're still going to do it no matter what. People were divorcing left and right. They would just pay the fee, a couple goats, and they were done. They got a new wife. And God said, no, hold on. You guys are so hard. I allow Moses. And because you're going to do it anyways, let me put parameters. That's like the same thing as Leviticus 11. God never intended man to eat meat. But because we're going to do it no matter what, because we got free will, he says, let me give a list of things that even though it's still damaging, but from everything, this is less damaging. Because we have to forget that God's intention is always to save us. And he will go great length to save us. So we confuse parameters that God gives with, well, God is supporting this. No. You forget about the prophet. He told, go marry a prostitute. And then when she left, go get her back.
Right.
Just to show the relationship with God's people and him. Like, you always abandon me, and I'm always after you. Because God does not approve. Now, there's free will, and you can't force somebody. Like, I was willing, like I mentioned, not just give ministry. I was willing to do everything to save my family. I was able to forgive. I waited a while. I insisted for like 3 years. Insisted. I approach her. I say, hey, you let go of this person. I'm willing to work in the marriage. I was able to do everything because I want to. And I'm going to give this advice to people that have gone through divorce. If you're sure that you've done everything to save your family, you should be at peace. You see, just because I have moments where I get sad, I'm at peace because I know I did everything to save my family. I offer everything and did everything to the extreme, went to counseling, was willing to forgive despite how painful it is. Because there's nothing like we forgive. There's a lot of things we forgive, but there's things that are harder to forgive, especially when you've been betrayed, when they hurt you very hard. It's difficult. And I preach about that a few months at the beginning of this year about that. But I was able to forgive because God used divorce to help me heal as an individual. Because I was broken. I've always told people I would never blame the other person. I had a part that I played on that. Because in a divorce, everybody has a part. Even when there's infidelity, there's always a part. That nobody will never have 100% of the fault.
Yeah.
It could be 80-20, but you got something still. And in that process, God helped me see my part on the things that as a married man I was doing that was not right. It doesn't still, the reason why we never admit that we're wrong is because we don't want to give, we don't want that feeling that we're giving the other person the right to make the decision they make, because we feel they're going to win if we admit to something wrong. And you have a lot of couples right now that are fighting, trying to be in the right and not admitting that they are wrong. It's always the other person no. And God showed that to me on a prayer. Oh, because I was talking, the things I was saying about the mother of my children, it was embarrassing as a minister saying all this kind of things. And then God had to show me, and as I was praying, putting things in my mind, how about this? How about the church knows that you're doing this? Have you done this? I was like, oh, snap, hold on. Let's, in the name of Jesus, amen. Let's finish prayer. I don't want to pray no more.
So Pastor, would you say, because I know there are people who are watching and listening tonight that probably are going through something hard. Would you say that one of the best things, if you're going through something, maybe not divorce, but maybe thinking about it, the best thing to give those individuals advice is to just analyze yourself, take a step back, and instead of pointing, 2 fingers forward, pay attention to how many fingers point back at you, point 1, 3, and really take a moment to just analyze yourself. Would that be something that can be life-changing, even saving a marriage, if one could focus on their flaws versus the others?
Yes. I think that
it's hard, I think. Right, it's a process. It's not
nobody wants
easy.
to admit they're wrong.
Okay.
Nobody wants to admit they're wrong.
Yeah.
We always want to make sure, because again, it's something in us that we want to make sure we come out. I'm looking as the good guy.
Yeah.
Remember, that's what Adam did when God came. Well, the woman that you gave me, I want to make sure, stress that out, that it was the woman that you gave me.
It is the woman's fault.
Yeah, he didn't want to admit that, hey, freely, this is a decision I made. No, he didn't want to admit that. Oh, that's too hard.
It's true, though. It's true.
Yeah, we want to make it so.
Someone's sleeping on the couch tonight.
I know.
Continue,
I'm
Pastor.
not willing to go that far. I got my wife watching. It's my fault, baby. It's my fault.
I'm kidding. Go on, Pastor. Go ahead.
I think that there's an advice in Jeremiah. Now, I'm talking about the people of Israel that were doing wicked things. And God sends an advice through the prophet. In Jeremiah chapter 6, if I'm not mistaken. It says, I'm going to say in Spanish because I know more in Spanish. I'll do the best translating. Así dice Jehová, now says the Lord, paraos en los caminos, mirad y ved, cuál es la senda antigua, y andad por él. Stand on the pathway, look and ask for the old ways, and then walk in it. And then towards the end of that verse, it says, but the people of Israel said, we will not walk on it. So God is giving an advice to the people of Israel. They're making decisions, bad decisions. And he tells them the advice. You got to stop. That's the first advice. Somebody going through divorce, you got to stop. Because it's hard to make decisions as you moving along with your feelings, with the people telling you things like, listen, you should leave her, or guys saying, there's so many thousands of women, don't worry about it, you should be okay. First thing you got to do is stop. And then it says you have to look. You have to realize what decision you're making. Is it something that is going to glorify God or not? Because see, we only think that our decisions to glorify God is only involved in the church. But we forget that everything in our life must glorify God. In everything we do, we got to glorify God. Is that decision that I'm making, is something going to glorify God? Again, I must stress, we're not talking about people that is physically abusing you. And there's another thing, but with this one, I'm going to be very careful because I don't want to create I want to be careful with people's emotions because I'm not in other people's shoes. I can only speak about my situation. There's something that has come very often. It's called emotional abuse. I do believe emotional abuse is true. At the same time, I also believe that is an excuse that most people use to bring a divorce. Most of the people that I've dealt with and I talk to, that's the main reason they use for divorce is emotional abuse. Well, Pastor, problem is that he screamed at me when we were arguing. Well, think about this. If you're arguing with somebody, let's say I'm arguing with you, I'm upset at you. You want me to come to you, Pastor Sergio, I'm deeply upset at you. I'm burning in emotions with how much upset I am. No, that's not the way you talk. I'm gonna let you know I'm upset. Right. My outward appearance must show that I'm upset at you.
You're expressive human
being. But
being.
then we use that as, oh, well, he's screaming at me. Well, you probably scream at him too. That's part of an argument. Now, I'm not saying that emotional abuse is not there. Yes, there's been emotional abuse, but that's a flaw of character that can be corrected. We got to make the distinction of when it's a flaw of character that it can be changed by prayer. God changes the soul. By physically, God can still change that, but it's two different things. So the first thing is we got to stop. We got to look. We got to analyze the situations, the consequences. Am I listening to other people more than when I'm listening to what the Word of God says? Because see, when we want to get married, we ask God, not if this is the right person. We try to pitch to God why we believe this is the right person. Most of the marriages are a pitch. We're good salesmen to God. Well, I mean, she does recite Psalms 23. She comes from a pastoral family. She's been in church over her life because we present a pitch to God.
I think we just ask God bless us. A day at the altar.
But
Amen.
when we go to divorce,
right?
We don't throw any pitch. We don't even ask God.
Mercy.
We only ask God after we see the effects of our decision. Well, why you allowed this? Well, I mean, you've been married 10 years and you never prayed with me as a couple. You have not done your worship together. You have not seeked me to see what's the best way. We lead by emotion. Well, I don't want my daughters or my son to not eat meat. I want them vegetarian. The other one wants them to be vegan. And then there comes we never ask, let's ask God how we should raise our kids. It's never that. It's about how I feel. Because most of the things is how I feel. So I will say this. We really need to stop and look. And I like the way where it says, ask for the old ways. Because the old ways are old, but they old. If you go hiking, you're going to realize that there's always in the hike, there's always a little path connected to the main path. Those little paths are grass that you can see somebody already stepped on those paths. That's why they're a little path, because somebody already went through that. The reason it's saying the Bible, ask for those old ways, is ask people that already went through that already. They have the experience. They have the knowledge. They have the resources to let you know, like, think about this. I met one person that another person came and said, listen, I made the mistake to let go of my wife because I felt X, Y, and Z. And I made the mistake. Now I regret it. Telling to somebody else that was planning on leaving their wife. And even despite that, the person did exactly that because that's how he was feeling. And 2 years later, I'm talking to that person. I said, I should have listened to that advice that other person gave me. You will never be complete. You will never be complete after divorce. But doesn't mean you have to be sad. You can be happy. I'm happy. God has given me everything I lost. He has given me more and has been with me every single step of the way. It wasn't easy. Because the first 3 years, I was very angry at God. Because I felt like, man, I'm doing this for you. I'm a minister of God. And you I have a brother who's not in church. And I love my brother. But boy, that boy's a player. 20,000 girls. But his baby mama is still there with him. And that's what got me upset. I was like, hold on. I'm working for you and my family. And this foolish, this dumb guy, look at the stupidity he does, and he still have his family intact. And I did that on a prayer. God answers. God always talks to us when we pray, and in that prayer, the first thing I felt something like open the word, and I opened the book of Psalms when it says, don't be happy for how you see the unjust prosper, because they all going to have their day. That's when I was like, okay, never mind. Let's move on. Because we get upset at God for things that we believe are unjust.
Yeah.
But in reality, God has everything under control.
Wow.
I want to take a few moments to answer any questions. Excuse me. To answer any questions that our audience.
I was like, we're running
may
out of
have.
time, but wow, Pastor,
Yeah,
so much to say.
This conversation has been so well.
Yes.
We usually start, answering
Yeah.
questions at minute 35, and it's minute 50 now.
I'm sorry.
No.
Divorce is
No,
a
God
long
is leading.
topic.
It's
I know.
good.
Yeah.
It's a very good conversation. I see Rosana Guimaraes saying, thanks for the topic. Very much needed. It's so much deeper than emotion. It little cracks me up. No. What is it? I'm sorry.
It little cracks at a time. The enemy uses it all to enter, and he just takes over. Decisions have consequences, good and
Good
bad.
and
That's
bad.
true. That's true. Good. And I must say, it's something that I've stressed at the beginning, but I want to stress it again. There's people that have the reason why they divorce. And I've always believed that even though God does not agree with divorce, God understands why we make those decisions. And he still treats us as his own.
That's beautiful.
He treats us as his own. Whether it's good or bad, I don't have the divinity in me to say to somebody, that's a wrong decision, that's a bad decision, or whatever it is. But God understands. I just always want people to understand that don't confuse God understanding with then we go to other person. Well, that's the way I divorce. That's the reason why I divorce you. You should do the same thing.
As God approving or accepting.
Yeah.
God understanding doesn't mean that God is approving.
Yeah, but God understands reason.
Would you say this? Like, I've always seen the Bible, not always, but I have recently started seeing the Bible and God's commands as a way of him preventing us from pain and sorrow.
Yes.
So, for example, like not to have sex before marriage, keeping the Sabbath day, not lying, and all of these things. It's not just because God is saying, I'm God, and that's why I'm telling you not to do it, like a parent would say, because I'm dad or mom, but rather because it's keeping us from something. So, would you say that divorce kind of falls in the same thing, like the same reason? Like, is God protecting his children by saying, hey, don't get divorced because I'm trying to protect you from pain?
It is. God, and that's a great question. God is not that he wants you to stay in a place where you suffer. It's that there's a lot of consequences when it comes to divorce. Ask any children. I was just last week in McAllen, preaching to the academy, and I asked this question to high schoolers. How many of you come from divorced parents? And I want to say a good 30-40% of them raise their hands.
Wow, man.
And I asked this question. If you have to talk to your parents, because I told them, I never want my daughters to come from a divorced parent. But what advice will you give me? Because I was honest with them. I said, I struggle how to communicate with my daughters. And I know they're in pain. I just don't know how to communicate with them through that pain. Because I know pain through going through divorce, but I don't know the pain from a child perspective. Because my parents are not divorced.
Right.
And I would never forget this answer this girl gave me. She says, no matter how hard it is, don't chastise them because you're not understanding them. Just love them and just wait until they talk to you.
Wow.
And what I got from that is our children goes through so much pain on divorce, even though they don't show it on the outside. They are broken inside. Because when she was giving that answer, I could see in her eyes the pain of having parents divorce and the stigma that comes with it, with friends and people in society. Because one of the things that a lot of people do when we see children going through divorce, we approach them, but we have in our mind what we know about the parents and the divorce they went through. And sometimes with our questions, with our behaviors, we pretty much bring all that pain back. And our children are destroyed because, see, as adults, we have an ability kind of to manage more divorce or situation, but kids don't know. I have no idea. I had to see my youngest daughter be confused on who was the dad. The first 3 years I used to go get my daughters. My daughters never said to me, "I love you, Daddy." Bye, Ruby. That was the expression they always said.
By Ruby.
Bye, Ruby. And the guy that their mother was, they would tell him, "Oh, I love you," and everything. But to me, it was bye, Ruby.
Oh.
But they didn't know. My youngest was 4. So as she was growing up, all she saw as her father figure was somebody else that was not me, because I was far. Even though I picked them up every other weekend, it was just a weekend. It's 2 days. So all this emotions and damage, and then the question, because every kid will wonder if they are the reason for
divorce.
Yeah, so God doesn't want you not to divorce because he's being selfish.
Yeah.
He's trying to protect because of the damage. Not only that, the whole family gets damaged.
Every action has a consequence, and
Yes,
unfortunately,
yes.
And that, at the end of the day, I think if we really break it down, I mean, besides choosing your career, one of the biggest decisions you make in life is who you're going to marry. And that plays in a big part of who you are, who you will become, and what your morals and beliefs will stand.
And I feel that could be another conversation of, because, so marriage is obviously, a huge thing. And if divorce causes them this much damage, I feel that we, before getting married, need to really consider, if the person that we're gonna get married to, if we're the right person to that person, if that person is right, for me, or, and just make sure that this is who God wants me to marry.
Yeah. And just to finish this, I'm going to say a couple of things to those who are going through divorce or have been divorced. Number one, you also have to understand that somebody else has free will. That's the hardest part. Somebody has free will. We all have free will. There's a lot of people divorced not because they want to. I'm divorced not because I wanted to. But I had to understand that my will and God's will can be aligned, but the other person doesn't have to be aligned with God's will. And God allows that person to make that free choice. So you have to. And again, that's why when we see divorced people, don't assume immediately that it's a bad thing. And that's something I experienced. Everybody I met the first 3 years, "Oh, Pastor, what was it that you did wrong?" Something had to do wrong, because that's the only thing they thought. It's something I did wrong. I had a lady in the church who told me once, "You're a great pastor. You had to be a terrible husband."
Mercy.
Dang.
In front of a bunch of young
serious?
people. Yeah, in front of a bunch of young people. And I just had, by this time, I was kind of like useless. I was like, probably, sister. You're probably right. I mean, I don't know how to be able to respond to that. I mean,
you hug and you're like, "Come on in. We all sinners."
Well, we can't
Bring
smack
it in.
people. But those are moments where I wish that some of them at the church allow us to do 2 smack per year.
Bring it
Folks,
in.
if you have questions, please ask them now. I want to read some comments from the screen. Could you go up, Abel? Yes, a little bit up. So there you go. Okay. Emotional damage. Trust is everything, Michelle Thomas says. Monet Morgan says, a divorced person needs an understanding mate and good friend support because the pain was so great that it takes much love to conquer the scars that are left.
And that's a good advice to people that are married with a spouse that has been divorced. Be patient with them. Be patient, because listen, we're damaged goods, and you got to be patient. I like what I think it was Rosie said. Sad ripple effect. That's such a reality. Nobody knows the pain I go through with my daughters. I just went through the quinceañero, and the things I saw, I know that all that is part of what they've gone through as having divorced parents. And it hurts, and you don't know what to do. And all I could do is just pray, because there's nothing else I could do. And I'll say this real quickly. There's always hope. There's always hope.
That's right.
Whether you initiate a divorce or somebody abandoned you, or you divorced because somebody wasn't faithful to you, there's always hope.
For
whatever reason.
There's always hope. That's the first thing I had to learn day one.
of being divorced.
No, day one of recovery. It took me 3 years to overcome my divorce.
Okay.
I had a lot of hatred. God had to work with me. But I had to learn that there's always hope.
Man. Okay.
There will always be hope. And even though our children go through a tough time, if we trust God, He will help our kids go through these stages. There will be moments. But you have to remember, you got to be patient. You cannot, this is something I tell people that go through divorce. Don't try to skip a step in the recovery process. You know, there's people that go through divorce and in less than a year, they're already married. I wasn't ready for marriage. It took me a while. And I had plenty of opportunity. I'm a looking guy. I had plenty of opportunity. I don't want to, babe, you got me, but listen.
That's right,
If Renee
Pastor.
was here, she
Build
would be
that
cheering you on,
confidence.
brother.
Yeah.
If she was here, she would be
I
cheering
had
you
a
on.
lot of offers from ladies that wanted to marry.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, being a pastor and single, man, you're the hottest cake around there. Yeah, spirituality's sexy. Believe it or
Knowing
not.
how to make mangú and some
Listen,
chorizo ñando.
yes.
Plátano frito.
Yes, but you're not ready. If I've known people that get married in a year or two after divorce, and the marriage they're in right now is a mess.
Oh, it's skipping. It's skipping
Yeah,
the
you
recovery.
can step. No, take your time.
Take it easy, y'all. Take it
Yeah,
easy.
Take your time.
Yahaira Saldivar, thank you for
that's my
joining us.
sister.
Oh, that's your sister.
That's my sister. Oops, sorry, manita.
Hey.
That's my sister. It's my oldest sister. I don't know. She's not gonna like it. I said the oldest. She's the oldest. She's the oldest.
Michelle Thomas, the hardest part is asking yourself why. What do you have to say about that?
What she said?
The hardest part is asking yourself why.
You know, I'm gonna say this. It's gonna be painful and controversial, but I'm only gonna say it what I learned. I said at the beginning that God, his whole mindset is to save you, and He will go a great length. God would never want you to go through divorce, but He will use divorce to save you.
To say, wow.
I would not be the man, nor the pastor, nor the dad I am now unless I was going to go through divorce, or unless I went through divorce. God didn't want it, but since I was going to go through, He said, there's a lot of things I need to fix from you. And I want to use this to... I went through a lot of teachings with God. That's why now when I look at people, because I was very, oh man, I could judge you up and down from a distance quickly. I came from a very conservative home
Right.
where everything was a sin. Now, I'm more quiet because I learned that everybody's a living document. Everybody's a living. People have a story. The reason why people are the way they behave is because there's something in their history, whether it's in their family, a trauma that they went through. We all are living documents. And I learned how to be more quiet. Yeah, I might not like the dress they wear, but that doesn't mean I should be like, oh, this person is a beep, beep, beep. No. Whatever they've gone through, I'm just going to pray for her. There's something in her. I learned how to be less judgmental when I went through divorce. I learned how to be very quiet.
So it shapes you into, marriage shapes you into being a better person, into being, the person who God wants you to become. But also divorce, God can use that to shape you as well.
Oh, definitely. The question is,
especially
if you're willing, because I have people that spend the rest of their life talking about how the other person is bad, but they never look inside. See, I was not the perfect husband. I don't think I was bad, but I don't think I was good either. I did a lot of mistakes that I shouldn't. I did the silent treatment, where you get upset and you want the other person to feel the pain, so you're not going to talk to them for 2-3 days.
Pastor, don't tell me you went to bed angry.
Oh, yes, I did. I went to bed angry, and I'm going to show her. I'm not going to clean the house just to show her. She's going to have to deal with it. Yeah. I put church a lot of times first than my own family. I never took vacation under 8 years. And the vacation I took was to do evangelism. And I would take my whole family, preach, and then take a day or two to kind of vacation. But it was not vacation.
So say it louder to the members over here, because we need that. We need those vacations. All right.
I
people.
am planning to take one because I only taken 4 days.
Let them know. I've been
Pastor. Out, but because I've been out, does not mean I'm on vacation.
Go ahead and announce it already.
2024, folks, is going to be nothing but full vacations.
Yeah. You might not see me every 3 months.
Guys, thank you so much for those who are watching. I know that Faye was also here with us. Jackie Nyakundi.
We need a part 2.
Yeah, definitely. I think this has been passed. Yes, this has been such a good conversation. I know that about 20 people are watching this and many others watch it afterwards. thank you for sharing your
Testimony.
testimony with us.
Yeah.
We usually like to do, fun questions. Timing has gotten to us, but what would you say the best advice you have received is? So even the lights turn off.
Best advice in the divorce or just in general?
In general, all your life.
God loves me, I love myself, and that's enough.
Worst advice you've ever received?
Worst advice I've ever received?
Yes.
I don't think it's a little more than PG-13. But the worst advice they told me was marry because of love. That's the biggest lie ever.
Marry because of love?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I've been
You
lied to all
cannot
my
marry
life.
because of love.
Really?
You got to mix love with
With
Brains.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the biggest lie ever.
My love?
Love is enough.
I just want to
Final
say,
thoughts?
Pastor, that Sergio and I, we respect you, we love you, and so much respect because it takes a lot to come here and share your story. And I know people have been blessed tonight. I've been blessed.
Yes.
I'm a hopeless romantic, and you inspire me to continue fighting that battle that we're all in.
Yeah.
And marriage is a beautiful thing. The devil is real. We just got to keep fighting.
Yeah. Be
Good
patient.
battle.
Stop. Don't. And just pray for him.
Pray for me, Pastor. Pray for me. Pastor Diego, you're in that round too.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, next week we will continue with our new season
3.
season 3 of Relationshift. We will be talking to the single folks. We're gonna be having a conversation with a couple of single people, and getting their perspective in life, and perhaps we can talk a little bit about that.
There's a lot of misconceptions in that topic, so I think
yes.
a lot of people, if you're single, get your friends, get your popcorn. It's gonna be real juicy and good.
Single, bilingual, and ready to mingle.
That's right.
In a couple of weeks, we're gonna also be talking about marriage and great testimony from a couple who's coming from San Antonio. You've ever heard of the phrase "tóxica"?
Oh yeah. There's a restaurant.
There is a
And we
restaurant.
went.
Yes.
And you pointed out. I'll talk to you about that. I'll let you know what he did.
But their testimony is amazing, and it's
Powerful.
interesting because what you said about the worst advice, getting married because of love. I feel that you can also, this couple, reunited when they fell out of love. They reunited. They fell back into love. So,
Is there
folks,
hope? Yes, there is.
There is hope.
Stay tuned.
This November is going to be many surprises with this podcast. So I hope that you have enjoyed it. Please join us and send this. If you feel that this podcast can be a help, can be a blessing to somebody, please send them the link, and we'll see you here next week.
Have a blessed evening.
Bye bye.
God
Thank you,
bless.
Pastor Ruby. God bless.
God bless.